We've stopped overlooking a palm oil plantation on our way. This particular factory behind me here is churning out about 60 tonnes of palm oil an hour, and that happens every day for around about 12 hours a day. While it might look lush and green, in reality it's a very lifeless place. Palm oil plantations can't support a lot of biodiversity. Wildlife can't live in these plantations. There's no food, there's no suitable habitat, and there's no complexity of all the necessary components of a healthy functioning ecosystem. You might remember this Greenpeace video from 2018.
There's a orangutan in my bedroom and I don't know what to do.
It went viral after British supermarket chain Iceland wanted to use it for their Christmas campaign, but it was banned for being too political. In terms of raising awareness around palm oil, it was a huge success. But while the message was powerful, it was also confusing. Iceland said they were going to ban all palm oil from their supermarkets. The problem with that is getting rid of palm oil just means replacing it with something else, and the alternatives could be even more damaging to rainforests and the wildlife that live in them. Instead of a blanket boycott, Greenpeace, along with us at Auckland Zoo and a number of other NGOs grappling with the realities of deforestation, are supporting sustainable palm oil. Palm oil, when it's grown sustainably, actually offers the most efficient use of available resources, needing up to 10 times less land than alternatives like soy or canola. It also uses fewer pesticides. Getting this right is important because palm oil is the most widely used vegetable oil in the world. While you won't find a bottle of it in a lot of Kiwi kitchens, it's a key ingredient found in over half of all supermarket products. And realistically, that isn't going to change. But what we can change is the way it's grown. Sustainability is key. That means understanding the difference between sustainable and unsustainable palm oil. More than 80% of global output is currently unsustainable. And because it grows best in low-lying tropical conditions, that has often meant cutting down rainforests and replacing them with oil palm plantations. Indonesia and Malaysia are the world's largest producers of palm oil, but the companies behind that production are now expanding into Africa and South America, into the same kind of fertile environments that are home to critically endangered wildlife. Now it's critical. We have to take a stand and make sure the industry listens. We've done this before as consumers, bringing our purchasing power to bear with things like free-range chickens and eggs and single-use plastic bags. Since 2003, the industry has had the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, or RSPO. Like other self-policing industry groups, it isn't always perfect, but it's currently the best option we have. What it offers consumers is traceability, allowing people to support companies that choose to source palm oil from an accredited supply chain. This isn't just a Sumatra problem, this is a global problem. In Indonesia, public outcry has already led the government to promise a crackdown on illegal plantations. But on the ground, we're not yet seeing much evidence of that. Here in Sumatra, deforestation hasn't stopped, although it is slowing, and there's a movement towards change that is gathering momentum. We're going to see a local organisation who are restoring forest land that had been illegally planted with oil palm. We've just arrived at Orangutan Information Centre's restoration site, and we're just meeting up with the staff here, getting ourselves sorted, and then they're going to go and show us around their program. Orangutan Information Centre is an organisation dedicated to protecting the Sumatran orangutan and their forest home. One of their areas of work is replanting native forests where there were once illegal palm oil plantations. Part of the drive to ensuring sustainable palm oil is pushing back against the production of unsustainable palm oil. If we let irresponsible producers get away with it, there's no incentive to work for good. Nayla is showing us around some newly reclaimed land.
A year ago, before we began the restorations, all of this area were all palm oil plantations. And then we cut down all of the trees, and as you can see, there are so many stems of the palm oil trees here as the proof that this is actually was a palm oil plantation. It's so fragile for the national park to be taken from either its local people or maybe the company, because there's no specific boundaries, there's no specific sign which one is the national park. Without the clear sign, people will always make that as an excuse.
These small plants are going to be planted on the land that's been reclaimed. They might look small, but the earth is so fertile and the climate so good for growth that in just a few years this area has seen an abundance of wildlife returning.
I am local. I am from Sumatra. I live in a small village which is located around palm oil plantation, so I know how it feels to be a person who have a problem with the critical water, clean water source because of the palm oil plantations. So I always want to work with the wildlife and the forest, and that's how I work here in the YC. I love it so much to see how many changes of the restoration side give to the conservation work here in Sumatra.
A big part of encouraging sustainability is education, helping the local people to understand how important biodiversity is for their own future, their children's, and for the whole world. Jack is the head ranger of our Sumatran Ranger program. He's passionate about the forest, and his knowledge of how it works is an invaluable resource for us. He can tell if a poacher's been tracking a tiger, how old an orangutan nest is, or how close you might be to an elephant just from its dung and its tracks.
You see the scratching of the bear here? So why the sun bear climb this tree? Maybe you want to eat the termite.
Before he joined the Ranger program, Jack worked for a company that was illegally clearing rainforest.
Around 1999, I'm still do illegal logger in Tangkahan. And in my behind here is all the forest that is my area to cutting down the trees. So in the 2000, we changed our job and then we building the tourism in Tangkahan. So make us happy to do this job is because we helping another people. The important thing for us is we don't think about us, but we just thinking about the old people. We think for the future.
Helping people to work in harmony with the rainforest is really the only way to make sure they can coexist with the wildlife. And that means offering economic choices that make sense to them in the long term. It's estimated that around 3 million Indonesians depend on palm oil for their livelihood, so we need to make sure they want to work in a sustainable way. This means encouraging the right methods of production through labelling that allows us consumers to make good choices. We, as consumers, can help drive this necessary change by demanding sustainable palm oil and clear labelling, which will allow us to easily make good choices. Because the way we consume today will dictate how the industry and our planet evolves. Every time you visit Auckland Zoo, you're supporting our wild work in Sumatra. To date, through zoo visits and donations, our Auckland Zoo Conservation Fund has contributed over $4 million to conservation projects in New Zealand and around the world. To find out more, visit aucklandzoo.co.nz.